Act 2 of Ion by Thomas Noon Talford. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Act 2, Scene 1. A terrace of the palace. Adastris, Chrythes, and guards from the terrace center.
The air breathes freshly after a long night of glorious revelry. I'll walk a while.
It blows across the town. Dost thou not fear it bear infection with it?
Fear? Dost talk of fear to me? I deemed even thy poor thoughts had better scanned their master. Prithee tell me, in what act, word, or look, since I have borne thy converse here, hast thou discerned such baseness as makes thee bold to prate to me of fear?
My liege, of human might all know thee fearless. But may not heroes shun the elements when sickness taints them?
Let them blast me now. I stir not, tremble not. These massive walls, whose date o'erawes tradition, gird the home of a great race of kings, along whose line the eager mind lives aching through the darkness of ages else unstoried, till its shapes of armed sovereigns spread to godlike port, and frowning in the uncertain dawn of time, strike awe as powers who ruled an elder world in mute obedience. I, sad heritor of all their glories, feel our doom is nigh, and I will meet it as befits their fame, nor will I vary my selected path the breadth of my sword's edge, nor check a wish if such unkingly yielding might avert it.
Thou art ever royal in thy thoughts.
No more. I would be private.
Exit Chrythes with guards right.
Grovelling parasite. Why should I waste these fate-environed hours, and pledge my great defiance to despair with flatterers such as thou? As if my joys required the pale reflections cast by slaves in mirrored mockery round my throne, or lacked the aid of reptile sympathies to stream through fate's black pageantry. Let weakness seek companionship. I'll henceforth feast alone.
Enter a soldier right.
My liege, forgive me.
Well, speak out at once thy business and retire.
I have no part in the presumptuous message that I bear.
Tell it or go. There is no time to waste on idle terrors.
Thus it is, my lord. As we were burnishing our arms, a man entered the court, and when we saw him first was tending towards the palace. In amaze we hailed the rash intruder. Still he walked, unheeding, onward, till the western gate barred further course. Then turning, he besought our startled band to herald him to thee, that he might urge a message which the sages had charged him to deliver.
Ha! The greybeards, who mid the altars of the gods conspire to cast the image of supernal power from earth, its shadow consecrates. What sage is so resolved to play the orator that he would die for it?
He is but a youth, yet urged his prayer with sad constancy which could not be denied.
Most bravely planned, sedition worthy of the reverend host of sophist traitors, brave to scatter fancies of discontent amidst sturdy artisans, whose honest sinews they direct unseen, and make their proxies in the work of peril. 'Tis fit, when burning, to insult their king, and warned the pleasure must be bought with life, their valour send a boy to speak their wisdom. Thou know'st my last decree. Tell this rash youth the danger he incurs, then let him pass, and own the king more gentle than his masters.
We have already told him of the fate which waits his daring. Courteously he thanked us, but with still solemn aspect urged his suit.
Tell him once more, if he persists, he dies. Then, if he will, admit him. Should he hold his purpose, order Chrythes to conduct him, and see the headsman instantly prepare to do his office.
Exit a soldier.
So resolved, so young, 'twere pity he should fall. Yet he must fall, or the great sceptre, which has swayed the fears of ages, will become a common staff for youth to wield or age to rest upon, despoiled of all its virtues. He must fall, else they who prompt the insult will grow bold, and with their pestilent wandings through the city raise the low fog of murky discontent which now creeps harmless through its marshy birthplace to veil my setting glories. He is warned, and if he cross yon threshold, he shall die.
Enter Crithes and Ion right.
The king!
Stranger, I bid thee welcome. We are about to tread the same dark passage, thou almost on the instant.
To Crithes.
Is the sword of justice sharpened and the headsman ready?
Thou mayest behold them plainly in the court. Even now the solemn soldiers line the ground. The steel gleams on the altar, and the slave disrobes himself for duty.
Address to Ion.
Dost thou see them?
I do.
By heaven, he does not change. If even now thou wilt depart and leave thy traitorous thoughts unspoken, thou art free.
I thank thee for thy offer, but I stand before thee for the lives of thousands, rich in all that makes life precious to the brave, who perish not alone, but in their fall break the far-spreading tendrils that they feed, and leave them nurtureless. If thou wilt hear me for them, I am content to speak no more.
Thou hast thy wish, then. Crithes, till yon dial casts its thin shadow on the approaching hour, I hear this gallant traitor. On the instant, come without word, and lead him to his doom. Now leave us.
What? Alone?
Yes, slave, alone. He is no assassin.
Exit Crithes right.
Tell me who thou art. What generous source owns that heroic blood which holds its course thus bravely? What great wars have nursed the courage that can look on death, certain and speedy death, with placid eye?
I am a simple youth, who never bore the weight of armor, who may not boast of noble birth or valor of his own. Deem not the powers which nerve me thus to speak in thy great presence, and have made my heart upon the verge of bloody death as calm, as equal in its beatings, as when sleep approached me nestling from the sportive toils of thoughtless childhood, and celestial dreams began to glimmer through the deepening shadows of soft oblivion to belong to me. These are the strengths of heaven, to thee they speak, bid thee to hearken to thy people's cry, or warn thee that thy hour must shortly come.
I know it must. So mayest thou spare thy warnings. The envious gods in me have doomed a race whose glories stream from the same cloud-girt founts whence their own dawned upon the infant world, and I shall sit on my ancestral throne to meet their vengeance. But till then I rule as I have ever ruled, and thou wilt feel.
I will not further urge thy safety to thee. It may be, as thou sayest, too late, nor seek to make thee tremble at the gathering curse which shall burst forth in mockery at thy fall. But thou art gifted with a nobler sense. I know thou art, my sovereign, sense of pain endured by myriad Argives, in whose souls, and in whose fathers' souls, thou and thy fathers have kept their cherished state, whose heartstrings still the living fibres of thy rooted power quiver with agonies thy crimes have drawn from heavenly justice on them.
How? My crimes?
Yes, 'tis the eternal law, that where guilt is, sorrow shall answer it, and thou hast not a poor man's privilege to bear it alone, or in the narrow circle of his kinsmen, the penalties of evil, for in thine a nation fate lies circled, King Adrastus, steeled as thy heart is with the usages of pomp and power. A few short summers since thou wert a child, and canst not be relentless. Oh, if a maternal love embraced thee then! Think of the mothers who, with eyes unwet, glare o'er their perishing children. Hast thou shared the glow of a first friendship, which is born midst the rude sports of boyhood? Think of youth smitten amidst its playthings. let the spirit of thine own innocent childhood whisper pity.
In every word thou dost but steel my soul. My youth was blasted. Parents, brother, kin, all that should people infancy with joy, conspired to poison mine, despoiled my life of innocence and hope, all but the sword and sceptre. Dost thou wonder at me now?
I knew that we should pity.
Pity! Dare to speak that word again, and torture waits thee. I am yet king of Argos. Well, go on. Thy time is short, and I am pledged to hear.
If thou hast ever loved,
Beware, beware.
thou hast. I see thou hast. Thou art not marble, and thou shalt hear me. Think upon the time when the clear depths of thy yet lucid soul were ruffled with the troublings of strange joy, as of some unseen visitant from heaven, touched the calm lake, and wreathed its images in sparkling waves. Recall the dallying hope that on the margin of assurance trembled, as loath to lose in certainty, too blessed its happy being. Taste in thought again of stolen sweetness those evening walks, when pansied turf was air to winged feet, and circling forest, by ethereal touch enchanted, wore the livery of the sky, as if to melt in golden light shapes of one heavenly vision, and thy heart, enlarged by its new sympathy with one, grew bountiful to all.
That tone, whence came it? From thy lips? It cannot be. The long hushed music of the only voice that ever spake unbought affection to me, and waked my soul to blessing. O sweet hours of golden joy, ye come. Your glories break through my pavilion spirit's sable folds. Roll on, roll on. Stranger, thou dost enforce me to speak of things unbreathed by lip of mine to human ear. Wilt listen?
As a child.
Again, that voice again. Thou hast seen me moved as never mortal saw me, by a tone which some light breeze, enamoured of the sound, hath wafted through the woods, till thy young voice caught it to rive and melt me. At my birth the city, which expectant of its prince lay hushed, broke out in clamorous ecstasies. Yet in that moment, while the uplifted cups foamed with the choicest product of the sun, and welcome thundered from 1,000 throats, my doom was sealed. From the hearth's vacant space in the dark chamber where my mother lay, faint with the sense of pain-bought happiness, came forth, in heart-appalling tone, these words of me the nursling. Woe unto the babe! Against the life which now begins, shall life, lighted from thence, be armed, and both soon quenched. End this great line in sorrow. Ere I grew of years to know myself a thing accursed, a second son was born to steal the love which fate had else scarce rifled. He became my parents' hope, the darling of the crew who lived upon their smiles, and thought it flattery to trace in every foible of my youth, a prince's youth, the workings of the curse. My very mother, Jove, I cannot bear to speak it now, looked freezingly upon me.
But thy brother
Died. Thou hast heard the lie, the common lie that every peasant tells of me, his master, that I slew the boy. 'Tis false. One summer's eve, below a crag which in his wilful mood he strove to climb, he lay a mangled corpse. The very slaves whose cruelty had shut him from my heart now coined their own injustice into proofs to brand me as his murderer.
Did they dare accuse thee?
Not in open speech. They felt I should have seized the miscreant by the throat and crushed the lie half spoken with the life of the base speaker. But the lie looked out from the stolen gaze of coward eyes, which shrank when mine have met them, murmured through the crowd that at the sacrifice or feast or game stood distant from me. burned into my soul when I beheld it in my father's shudder.
Didst not declare thy innocence?
To whom? To parents who could doubt me? To the ring of grave impostors, or their shallow sons who should have studied to prevent my wish before it grew to language? Hailed my choice to service as a prize to wrestle for, and whose reluctant courtesy I bore, pale with proud anger, till from lips compressed the blood has started. To the common herd, the vassals of our ancient house, the mass of bones and muscles framed to till the soil a few brief years, then rot unnamed beneath it, or decked for slaughter at their master's call, to smite and to be smitten, and lie crushed in heaps to swell his glory or his shame. Answer to them. No. Though my heart had burst, as it was nigh to bursting, to the mountains I fled, and on their pinnacles of snow breasted the icy wind in hope to cool my spirit's fever. Struggled with the oak in search of weariness, and learned to rive its stubborn boughs till limbs once lightly strung might mate in cordage with its infant stems. Or on the sea-beat rock tore off the vest which burnt upon my bosom, and to air headlong committed clove the water's depth which plummet never sounded, but in vain.
Yet succour came to thee.
A blessed one, which the strange magic of thy voice revives, and thus unlocks my soul. My rapid steps were in a wood-encircled valley, stayed by the bright vision of a maid, whose face most lovely, more than loveliness, revealed, in touch of patient grief, which dearer seemed than happiness to spirits seared like mine. With feeble hands she strove to lay in earth the body of her aged sire, whose death left her alone. I aided her sad work, and soon two lonely ones by holy rites became one happy being. Days, weeks, months, in stream-like unity flowed silent by us in our delightful nest. My father's spies, slaves whom I not should have consigned to stripes or the swift falchion, tracked our sylvan home just as my bosom knew its second joy. In spite of fortune, I embraced a son.
Urged by thy trembling parents to avert that dreadful prophecy.
Fools! Did they deem its worst accomplishment could match the ill which they wrought on me? It had left unharmed 1,000 ecstasies of passioned years, which, tasted once, live ever, and disdain fate's iron grapple. Could I now behold that sun, with a knife uplifted at my heart, a moment ere my lifeblood followed it, I would embrace him with my dying eyes, and pardon destiny. Our jocund smiles wreathed on the infant's face, as if sweet spirits suggested pleasant fancies to his soul. The ruffians broke upon us, seized the child, dashed through the thicket to the beetling rock neath which the deep wave is. I stood still as stricken into stone. I heard him cry, pressed by the rudeness of the murderer's gripe, severer ill unfearing. Then the splash of waters that shall cover him forever, and could not stir to save him.
And the mother?
She spake no word, but clasped me in her arms and lay her down to die. A lingering gaze of love she fixed on me. None other loved, and so passed hence. By Jupiter, her look, her dying patience glimmers in thy face. She lives again. She looks upon me now. There's magic and... Bear with me. I am childish.
Enter Crithes and guards right.
Why art thou here?
The dial points the hour.
Dost thou not see that horrid purpose past? Hast thou no heart? No sense?
Scarce half an hour hath flown since the command, on which I wait.
Scarce half an hour? Years. Years have rolled since then. Begone. Remove that pageantry of death. It blasts my sight. And hearken, touch a hair of this brave youth, or look on him as now with thy cold headsman's eye, and yonder band shall not expect a fearful show in vain. Hence without word.
Exit Crathy's right.
What wouldst thou have me do?
Let thy awakened heart speak its own language. Convene thy sages, frankly, nobly meet them. Explore with them the pleasure of the gods, and whatsoe'er the sacrifice, perform it.
Well, I will seek their presence in an hour. Go summon them, young hero. Hold! No word of the strange passion thou hast witnessed here.
Distrust me not. Benignant powers, I thank thee.
Exit right.
Yet stay. He's gone. His spell is on me yet. What have I promised him? To meet the men who from my living head would strip the crown and sit in judgment on me? I must do it. Yet shall my band be ready to o'erawe the course of liberal speech, and if it rise so as to loudly to offend my ear, strike the rash brawler dead. What idle dream of long past days had mounted me? It fades. It vanishes. I am again a king.
Scene 2. The interior of the temple. Same as Act 1, Scene 1. Clemanthe seated, Abra attending her.
Look, dearest lady, the thin smoke aspires in the calm air, as when in happier times it showed the gods propitious. Wilt thou seek thy chamber, lest thy father and his friends, returning, find us hinderers of their counsel? She answers not. She hearkens not. With joy could I believe her, for the first time, sullen. Still, she is rapt.
Enter Agenor left.
Oh, speak to my sweet mistress. Happily thy voice may rouse her.
Dear Clemente, hope dawns in every omen. We shall hail our tranquil hours again.
Enter Medon, Cleon, Timocles, and others left.
Clemanthe here? How sad, how pale.
Her eye is kindling. Hush!
Hark! Hear ye not a distant footstep?
No, look round, my fairest child. Thy friends are near thee.
Yes, now 'tis lost. 'Tis on that endless stair, nearer and more distinct. 'Tis his. 'Tis his. He lives. He comes.
Rises and rushes to back of the stage, at which Ion appears. Center, and returns with her, center.
Here is your messenger, whom heaven has rescued from the tyrant's rage. Ye sent him forth to brave. Rejoice, old men, that ye are guiltless of his blood. Why pause ye? Why shout ye not his welcome?
Dearest girl, this is no scene for thee. Go to thy chamber. I'll come to thee ere long.
Exeunt Clemanthe and Abra.
She is o'erwrought by fear and joy for one whose infant hopes were mingled with her own, even as a brother's.
Ion, how shall we do thee honour?
None is due, save to the gods, whose gracious influence sways the king ye deemed relentless. He consents to meet ye presently in council. Speed! This may be nature's latest rally in him, in fitful strength, ere it be quenched forever.
Haste to your seats. I will but speak a word with our brave friend and follow. Though convened in speed, let our assembly lack no forms of due observance, which to furious power plead with the silent emphasis of years.
Exeunt all but Medon and Ion left.
Ion, draw near me. This eventful day hath shown thy nature's graces circled round with firmness which accomplishes the hero. And it would bring to me but one proud thought, that virtues which required not culture's aid shed their first fragrance neath my roof, and there found shelter. But it also hath revealed, what I may not hide from thee, that my child, my blithe and innocent girl, more fair in soul, more delicate in fancy than in mould, loves thee with other than a sister's love. I should have cared for this. I vainly deemed a fellowship in childhood's thousand joys and household memories had nurtured friendship which might hold blameless empire in the soul. But in that guise the traitor hath stolen in, and the fair citadel is thine.
'Tis true. I did not think the nursling of thy house could thus disturb its holiest inmate's duty with a tale of selfish passion. But we met as playmates who might never meet again, and the hidden truth flashed forth and showed to each the image of the other's soul in one bright instant.
Be that instant blessed which made thee truly ours. My son, my son, 'tis we should feel uplifted, for the seal of greatness is upon thee. Yet I know that when the gods, won by thy virtues, draw the veil which now conceals their lofty birthplace, thou wilt not spurn the maid who prized them lowly.
Spurn her, my father!
Enter Tisiphon, Center.
Ctesiphon, and breathless, art come to chide me to the council?
Crosses to Center.
No, to bring unwonted joy. Thy son approaches.
Thank heaven! Hast spoken with him? Is he well?
I strove in vain to reach him, for the crowd, roused from the untended couch and dismal hearth by the strange visiting of hope, press round him. But by his head erect and fiery glance I know that he is well, and that he bears a message which shall shake the tyrant.
Shouts without.
See, the throng is tending this way. Now it parts, and yields him to thy arms.
Enter Phocion, left.
Welcome, my Phocion, long waited for in Argos. How detain now matters not, since thou art here in joy. Hast brought the answer of the gods?
I have. Now let Adrastus tremble.
May we hear it?
I am sworn first to utter it to him.
But it is fatal to him. Say but that.
Ha, Tisiphon, I marked thee not before. How fares thy father?
Ion to Phocion.
Do not speak of him.
Overhearing Ion.
Not speak of him? Dost think there is a moment when common things eclipse the burning thought of him and vengeance?
Has the tyrant soared?
No, Phocion, that were merciful and brave compared to his base deed. Yet will I tell it.
Crosses to Center.
To make the flashing of thine eye more deadly, and edge thy words that they may rive his heartstrings. The last time that Adrastus dared to face the sages of the state, although my father, yielding to nature's mild decay, had left all worldly toil and hope, he gathered strength in his old seat to speak one word of warning. Thou knowest how bland with years his wisdom grew, and with what phrases, steeped in love, he sheathed the sharpness of rebuke. Yet, ere his speech was closed, the tyrant started from his throne, and with his base hand smote him. 'Twas his death stroke. The old man tottered home, and only once raised his head after.
Thou wert absent? Yes, the royal miscreant lives.
Had I beheld that sacrilege, the tyrant had laid dead, or I had been torn piecemeal by his minions. But I was far away. When I returned, I found my father on the nearest bench within our door, his thinly silvered head supported by wan hands, which hid his face and would not be withdrawn. No groan, no sigh was audible, and we might only learn, by short convulsive tremblings of his frame, that life still flickered in it. Yet, at last, by some unearthly inspiration roused, he dropped his withered hands, and sat erect as in his manhood's glory. The free blood flushed crimson through his cheeks, his furrowed brow expanded clear, and his eyes, opening full, gleamed with a youthful fire. I fell in awe upon my knees before him. Still he spake not, but slowly raised his arm untrembling, clenched his hand as if it grasped an airy knife, and struck in air. My hand was joined with his in nervous grasp. My lifted eye met his in steadfast gaze. My pressure answered his. We knew at once each other's thought. A smile of the old sweetness played upon his lips, and life forsook him. Weaponless I flew to seek the tyrant, and was driven with scoffs from the proud gates which shelter him. He lives, and I am here to babble of revenge.
It comes, my friend. Haste with me to the king.
Even while we speak, Adrastus meets his council. There let us seek him. Should ye find him touched with penitence, as happily we may, oh, give allowance to his softened nature.
Show grace to him? Dost dare? I had forgot. Thou dost not know how a son loves a father.
I know enough to feel for thee. I know thou hast endured the vilest wrongs that tyranny in the worst frenzy can inflict. Yet think, oh think, before the irrevocable deed shuts out all thought, how much of power's excess is theirs who raise the idol. Do we groan beneath the personal force of this rash man, who, 40 summers since, hung at the breast, a playful weakling, who the heat unnerves, the north wind pierces, the hand of death may, in a moment, change to clay as vile as that of the scourged slave whose chain it severs? No, 'tis our weakness grasping, or the shows of outward strength that builds up tyranny and makes it look glorious. If we shrink faint-hearted from the reckoning of our span of mortal days, we pamper the fond wish for long duration in a line of kings. If the rich pageantry of thoughts must fade, all unsubstantial, as the regal hues of eve which purple them, our cunning frailties must robe a living image with their pomp, and wreathe a diadem around its brow, in which our sunny fantasies may live impearled and gleam in fatal splendor far on after ages. We must look within for that which makes us slaves, on sympathies which find no kindred objects in the plane of common life, affections that aspire in air too thin, and fancy's dewy film floating for rest. For even such delicate threads, gathered by fate's engrossing hand, supply the eternal spindle whence she weaves the bond of cable strength in which our nature struggles.
Go, talk to others if thou wilt. To me all argument, save that of steel, is idle.
No more. Let's to the council. There, my son, tell thy great message nobly. And for thee, poor orphaned youth, be sure the gods are just.
Exeunt left. Scene 3. The great square of the city. Adastus seated on a throne. Agenor, Timocles, Cleon, and others seated as councillors. Soldiers line the stage at a distance.
Upon your summons, sages, I am here. Your king attends to know your pleasure. Speak it.
And canst thou ask? If the heart dead within thee receives no impress of this awful time, art thou of sense forsaken? Are thine ears so charmed by strains of slavish minstrelsy, that the dog groan and frenzy-pointed shriek pass them unheard to heaven? Or are thine eyes so conversant with the prodigies of grief, they cease to dazzle at them? Art thou armed against wonder, while in all things nature turns to dreadful contraries? While youth's full cheek is shriveled into furrows of sad years, and neath its glossy curls, untinged by care, looks out a keen anatomy. While age is stung by feverish torture for an hour into youth's strength, while fragile womanhood starts into frightful courage, all unlike the gentle strength its gentle weakness feeds to make affliction beautiful, and stalks abroad, a tearless and unshuddering thing, while childhood, in its orphan freedom blithe, finds in the shapes of wretchedness which seem grotesque to its unsaddened vision cause for dreadful mirth that shortly shall be hushed in never broken silence. And while love, immortal through all change, makes ghastly death its idol, and with furious passion digs amid sepulchral images for gods to cheat its fancy with, do sights like these glare through the realm thou shouldst be parrot to? And canst thou find the voice to ask our pleasure?
Cease, babbler. Wherefore would ye stun my ears with vain recital of the griefs I know and cannot heal? Will treason turn aside the shafts of fate, or medicine nature's ills? I have no skill in pharmacy, nor power to sway the elements.
Thou hast the power to cast thyself upon the earth with us in penitential shame. Or, if this power hath left a heart made weak by luxury and hard by pride, thou hast at least the power to cease the mockery of thy frantic revels.
I have yet power to punish insult. Look, I use it not, Agenor. Fate may dash my sceptre from me, but shall not command my will to hold it with a feebler grasp. Nay, if few hours of empire yet are mine, they shall be coloured with a sterner pride, and peopled with more lustrous joys than flushed in the serene procession of its greatness, which looked perpetual as the flowing course of human things. Have you beheld a pine that clasped the mountain summit with a root as firm as its rough marble, and, apart from the huge shade of undistinguished trees, lifted its head as in delight to share the evening glories of the sky, and taste the wanton dalliance of the heavenly breeze, that no ignoble vapour from the vale could mingle with, smit by the flaming marl, and lighted for destruction? How it stood one glorious moment, fringed and wreathed with fire, which showed the inward graces of its shape, uncumbered now, and midst its topmost boughs, that young ambition's airy fancies made their giddy nest, leaped sportive, never clad by liberal summer in a pomp so rich as waited on its downfall, while it took the storm cloud rolled behind it for a curtain, to gird its splendours round, and made the blast its minister to whirl its flashing shreds aloft towards heaven, or to the startled depths of forests that far might share its doom. So shall the royalty of Argus pass in festal blaze to darkness. Have ye spoken?
I speak no more to thee. Great Jove, look down.
Shouts without.
What faction's brawl is this? Disperse it, soldiers.
Shouting renewed. As some of the soldiers are about to march, Phocion rushes in, followed by Ctesiphon, Ion, and Medon.
Whence is this insolent intrusion?
King, I bear Apollo's answer to thy prayer.
Has not thy travel taught thy need's duty? Here we had schooled thee better.
Kneel to thee.
Patience, my son. Do homage to the king.
Never. Thou talk'st of schooling. No, Adrastus, that I have studied in a nobler school than the dull haunt of venal sophistry, or the lewd guard-room, o'er which ancient heaven extends its arch for all, and mocks the span of palaces and dungeons, where the heart in its free beatings, neath the coarsest vest, claims kindred with diviner things than power of kings can raise or stifle. In the school of mighty nature, where I learned to blush at sight like this, of thousands basely hushed before a man no mightier than themselves, save in the absence of that love that softens.
Peace! Speak thy message.
Shall I tell it here, or shall I seek thy couch at dead of night, and breathe it in low whispers, as thou wilt?
Here, and this instant.
Hearken then, Adrastus, and hearken, Argives. Thus Apollo speaks.
Reads a scroll.
Argos ne'er shall find release, till her monarch's race shall cease.
'Tis not God's will, but man's sedition speaks. Guards, tear that lying parchment from his hands, and bear him to the palace.
Touch him not. He is Apollo's messenger, whose lips were never stained with falsehood.
Come on, all!
Surround him, friends. Die with him.
Soldiers, charge upon these rebels. Hew them down. On! On!
The soldiers advance and surround the people. They seize Phocion. Ion rushes from the back of the stage and throws himself between Adastrus and Phocion. Phocion to Adastrus.
Yet I defy thee.
Ion to Phocion.
Friend, for sake of all, enrage him not. Wait, while I speak a word.
To Adastrus.
My sovereign, I implore thee, do not stain this sacred place with blood. In heaven's great name, I do conjure thee, and in hers, whose spirit is mourning for thee now.
Release this stripling. Let him go spread his treason where he will. He is not worth my anger. To the palace.
Nay, yet an instant. Let my speech have power from heaven to move thee further. Thou hast heard the sentence of the god, and thy heart owns it. If thou wilt cast aside this cumbrous pomp, and in seclusion purify thy soul, long fevered and sophisticate, the gods may give thee space for penitential thoughts. If not, as surely as thou standest here, wilt thou lie stiff and weltering in thy blood. The vision presses on me now.
Not mad? Resign my state? Sue to the gods for life, the common life which every slave endures and meanly clings to? No. Within yon walls I shall resume the banquet, never more broken by man's intrusion. Counsellors, farewell. Go mutter treason till ye perish.
Exeunt Adastrus, Crythes, and soldiers left. Ion stands apart, leaning on a pedestal.
'Tis sealed.
Let us withdraw, and strive by sacrifice to pacify the gods.
Medon, Agenor, and counsellors retire. They leave Tasiphon, Phocion, and Ion. Ion still stands apart, as wrapped in meditation.
'Tis well. The measure of his guilt is filled. Where shall we meet at sunset?
In the grove, which with its matted shade embrowns the vale, between those buttresses of rock that guard the sacred mountain on its western side, stands a rude altar, overgrown with moss, and stained with drippings of a million showers, so old that no tradition names the power that hallowed it, which we will consecrate anew to freedom and justice.
Thither will I bring friends to meet thee. Shall we speak to yon rapt youth?
Pointing to Ion.
His nature is too gentle. At sunset we will meet. With arms?
A knife. One sacrificial knife will serve.
At sunset.
Exit Tasiphon right, Phocion center left. Ion comes forward.
O wretched man, thy words have sealed thy doom. Why should I shiver at it, when no way, save this, remains to break the ponderous cloud that hangs above my wretched country? Death, a single death, the common lot of all, which it will not be mine to look upon, and yet its ghastly shape dilates before me. I cannot shut it out. My thoughts grow rigid, and as that grim and prostrate figure haunts them, my sinews stiffen like it. Courage, Ion. No spectral form is here. All outward things wear their own familiar looks. No dye pollutes them. And yet the air has the scent of blood, and now it eddies with a hurtling sound, as if some weapon swiftly clove it. No. The falchion's course is silent as the grave that yawns before its victim. Gracious powers, if the great duty of my life be near, grant it may be to suffer, not to strike.
Exeunt right. End of Act 2. Act 4 of Ion by Thomas Noon Talfourd. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Act 4, Scene 1. The Royal Chamber. Adastrus on a couch asleep. Enter Ion with the knife.
Why do I creep thus stealthily along with trembling steps? Am I not armed by heaven to execute its mandate on a king whom it hath doomed? And shall I alter now, while every moment that he breathes may crush some life else happy? Can I be deceived by some foul passion crouching in my soul, which takes a radiant form to lure me on? Assure me, gods! Yes, I have heard your voices, for I dare pray ye now to nerve my arm and see me strike.
He goes to the couch.
He's smiling in his slumber, as if some happy thought of innocent days played at his heartstrings. Must I scare it thence with death's sharp agony? He lies condemned by the high judgment of supernal powers, and he shall know their sentence. Wake, Adrastus, collect thy spirits, and be strong to die.
Who dares disturb my rest? Guards, soldiers, recreants, where tarry ye? Why smite ye not to earth this bold intruder? Ha! No weapon here. What wouldst thou with me, ruffian?
Rising.
I am none but a sad instrument in Jove's great hand, to take thy life, long forfeited. Prepare, thy hour is come.
Villains! Dost no one hear?
Vex not the closing minutes of thy being with torturing hope or idle rage. Thy guards, palsied with revelry, are scattered senseless, while the most valiant of our Argive youths hold every passage by which human aid could reach thee. Present death is the award of powers who watch above me, while I stand to execute their sentence.
Thou, I know thee, the youth I spared this morning, in whose ear I poured the secrets of my bosom. Kill me, if thou darest do it, but bethink thee first how the grim memory of thy thankless deed will haunt thee to the grave.
It is most true, thou sparest my life, and therefore do the gods ordain me to this office, lest thy fall seem the chance forfeit of some single sin, and not the great redress of Argos. Now, while I parley, spirits that have left within this hour their plague-tormented flesh to rot untombed glide by, and frown on me, their slow avenger, and the chamber swarms with the look of furies. Yet a moment wait, ye dreadful prompters. If there is a friend whom, dying, thou wouldst greet by word or token, speak thy last bidding.
I have none on earth. If thou hast courage, end me.
Not one friend? Most piteous doom.
Art melted?
If I am, hope nothing from my weakness. Mortal arms and eyes unseen that sleep not gird us round, and we shall fall together. Be it so.
No. Strike at once. My hour is come. In thee I recognize the minister of Jove, and kneeling thus submit me to his power.
Kneels.
Avert thy face.
No. Let me meet thy gaze. For breathing pity lights thy features up into more awful likeness of a form which once shone on me, and which now my sense shapes palpable, in habit of the grave, inviting me to the sad realm where shades of innocence, whom passionate regard linked with the guilty, are content to pace with them the margin of the inky flood, mournful and calm. 'Tis surely there. She waves her pallid hand in circle o'er thy head as if to bless thee. And I bless thee too, death's gracious angel. Do not turn away.
Gods, to what office have ye doomed me? Now.
Ion raises his arm to stab Adrastus, who is kneeling, and gazes steadfastly upon him. The voice of Medon is heard without, calling,
Ion! Ion!
Ion drops his arm.
Be quick, or thou art lost.
As Ion has again raised his arm to strike, Medon rushes in behind him, center.
Ion, forbear! Behold thy son, Adrastus.
Ion stands for a moment, stupefied with horror, drops the knife, and falls senseless to the ground.
What strange words are these which call my senses from the death they were composed to welcome? Son, 'tis false. I had but one, and the deep wave rose o'er him.
That wave received, instead of the fair nursling, one of the slaves who bore him from thy sight in wicked haste to slay. I'll give thee proofs.
Great Jove, I thank thee. Raise him gently. Proofs. Are there not here the lineaments of her who made me happy once? The voice now still that bade the long-sealed fount of love gush out, while with a prince's constancy he came to lay his noble life down, and the dreadful proof that he whose guileless brow is instinct with their spirit stood above me, armed for the traitor's deed. It is my child.
Ion, reviving, sinks on one knee before Adastrus.
Father!
Noise without.
The clang of arms.
Ion, starting up.
They come! They come! They who are leagued with me against thy life. Here let us fall!
I will confront them yet. Within I have a weapon which has drunk a traitor's blood ere now. There will I wait them. No power less strong than death shall part us now.
Exeunt Adastrus and Ion, as into an inner chamber, upper entrance left.
Have mercy on him, gods, for the dear sake of your most single-hearted worshipper.
Enter Tasiphon, Cassander, and others left.
What a treachery is this! The tyrant fled, and Ion fled too? Comrades, stay this dotard, while I search yonder chamber.
Spare him, friends. Spare him to clasp awhile his new-found son. Spare him as Ion's father.
Father? Yes, that is indeed a name to bid me spare. Let me but find him, gods.
Rushes into an inner chamber. Meet to Cassander and others.
Had ye but seen what I have seen, ye would have mercy on him.
Crythes enters with soldiers right.
Ah, soldiers, hasten to defend your master. That way.
As Crythes is about to enter the inner chamber, upper entrance left, Tasiphon rushes from it with a bloody dagger and stops them.
It is accomplished. The foul blot is wiped away. Shade of my murdered father, look on thy son and smile.
Whose blood is that? It cannot be the king's.
It cannot be? Thinkest thou, foul minion of a tyrant's will, he was to crush, and thou to crawl for ever? Look there, and tremble.
Wretch, thy life shall pay the forfeit of this deed.
Crythes and soldiers seize Tasiphon. Enter Adastrus, mortally wounded, supported by Ion, upper entrance left.
Here let me rest. In this old chamber did my life begin, and here I'll end it. Crythes, thou hast timed thy visit well, to bring thy soldiers hither, to gaze upon my parting.
To avenge thee, here is the traitor.
Set him free at once. Why do ye not obey me? Tasiphon, I gave thee cause for this. Believe me now that thou, true steel, hast made thy vengeance sure. And as we now stand equal, I will sue for a small boon. Let me not see thee more.
Farewell.
Exit right. Address to Crythes and soldiers.
Why do ye tarry here? Begone! Still do you hover round my couch? If the commandment of a dying king is feeble as a man who has embraced his child for the first time since infancy, and presently must part with him forever, I do adjure ye leave us.
Exeunt all but Ion and Adastrus.
O my father, how is it with thee now?
Well, very well. Avenging fate hath spent its utmost force against me, and I gaze upon my son with the sweet certainty that naught can part us, till all is quiet here. How like a dream seems the succession of my regal pomps, since I embraced thy helplessness. To me the interval hath been a weary one. How hath it passed with thee?
But that my heart hath sometimes ached for a sweet sense of kindred, I had enjoyed a round of happy years as cherished youth e'er knew.
I bless the gods that they have strewn along thy humble path delights unblamed. And in this hour I seem even as I had lived so. I feel that I shall live in thee, unless that curse, if it should survive me.
Think not of it. The gods have shed such sweetness in this moment, that howsoe'er they deal with me hereafter, I shall not deem them angry. Let me call for such help to staunch thy wound. Thou art strong yet, and yet may live to bless me.
Do not stir. My strength is ebbing fast. Yet as it leaves me, the spirit of my stainless days of love awakens, and their images of joy, which at thy voice started from blank oblivion, when thou wert strange to me, and then have shown, looked sadly through the mist of guilty years, now glimmer on me in the lovely light which at thy age they wore. Thou art all thy mother's, her elements of gentlest virtue cast in mould heroical.
Thy speech grows fainter. Can I do nothing for thee?
Yes, my son, thou art the best, the bravest of a race of rightful monarchs. Thou must mount the throne thy ancestors have filled, and by great deeds efface the memory of thy fated sire, and with the blessing of the gods for men stricken for him. Swear to me thou wilt do this, and I shall die forgiven.
I will.
Rejoice, sufferers of Argos. I am growing weak, and my eyes dazzle. Let me rest my hands, ere they have lost their feeling, on thy head. So. Thy hair is glossy to the touch, as when I last enwreathed this tiny curl about my finger. I did image then thy reign excelling mine. It is fulfilled, and I die happy. Bless thee, King of Argus.
Dies.
He's dead, and I am fatherless again. King, did he hail me? Shall I make that word a spell to bid all happiness awake throughout the lovely land that fathered me in my forsaken childhood?
He sees the knife on the ground, and takes it up.
Most vain dream! This austere monitor hath bid me vanish ere half revealed. Come back, thou truant steel, and half of thy work of the gods absolve thee from. The rest remains. Lie there.
He conceals the knife in his vest. Shouts heard without.
The voice of joy! Is this thy funeral wailing? O my father, mournful and brief will be the heritage thou leavest me. Yet I promise thee in death to grasp it, and I will embrace it now.
Enter Agenor.
Does the king live?
Alas, in me, the son of him whose princely spirit is at rest, claims his ancestral honors.
Thy thought anticipates the prayer of Argus, roused to sudden joy. The sages wait without to greet thee, Wilt thou confer with them tonight, or wait the morning?
Now, the city-state allows the past no sorrow. I attend them.
Excellent. Scene 2. Before the gate of the city. Phocion on guard.
Fool that I was to take this idle office, at most inglorious distance from the scene which shall be freedom's birthplace, to endure the fantasies of danger, which the soul, uncheered by action, coldly dallies with, till it begins to shiver. Long ere this, if Ion's hand be firm, the deed is past, and yet no shout announces that the bonds of tyranny are broken.
Shouts at a distance.
Hark! 'Tis done.